I'm really glad to be with the ATA again. I worked on a project last year with Alessandro Niglia, a project in Georgia on emerging security challenges. It was a really, really good experience. And I come from a division which deals not only with energy issues, but also counterterrorism, cyber, non-proliferation of weapons of mass destruction, and several other issues. And we've been established in 2010 as the newest division of NATO, and our issues were very much reflected in a strategic concept of NATO. And why was it like that? Why NATO is focusing on these issues? Harold Macmillan, who was Prime Minister of UK in 50s, 60s, once was asked by a journalist, what is the mostly likely to blow governments off course, of their political course? And his response was, events, my boy, events. And that is exactly what drives NATO's, policies and strategies. If you think, for example, how NATO changed after 9/11, or in terms of cyber defense after 2007 Estonian attacks, or in 2011 after Libya events. And indeed, many of these events can change our course. And some of these events, some of these developments are actually predominantly of non-military nature. Especially if you think about the region of Middle East or region of North Africa, you have a lot of developments like climate change, extreme weather events, risks to energy security, not only from importer perspective, but also from exporter perspective, if you think about price collapses. You have terrorism and its financing, which is a really important issue when you think where the money comes from for Daesh, and about their income from oil sales, which by some estimations can reach around $500 million a year, dollars a year. If you think about information warfare, not only Eastern Europe, not only Russia, but also this particular region, information warfare and propaganda by terrorist organizations that can spread panic, also disrupt activities, and cyber attacks that could target not only communication networks but also disrupt critical infrastructure. Should NATO care about these things? Should we really think about it? And my answer is, of course, yes. Why? For three reasons. First of all, because many of these non-military developments in Middle East and North Africa have security and potentially military implications for allies and the alliance. Think about, let's say, oil price collapse, which may lead to more instability in some countries in the NATO neighborhood, less investment in energy exploration, but also less investment in defense capacity. Second, think about that some of these challenges can affect both NATO member countries and partner countries. Let's say cyber attacks, and you remember from 2012 Shamoon virus, which brought down Saudi Aramco computers, and terrorism, which can affect both NATO allied countries or partner countries. And we've heard that most of the attacks actually happen outside NATO, in the NATO neighborhood, or propaganda. And the third reason is that we are actually very much connected, even physically connected, with pipelines coming from North Africa to southern Europe, or from Iraq to Turkey. And in addition, most of energy resources are shipped by sea. And we should also see the sea lines of communications as infrastructure. What can NATO do about these non-military risks? We have heard yesterday from Deputy Secretary General that we have defense capacity building program, but it's geographically so far very limited. We have mostly Iraq and Jordan involved in this, and it's very much focused on defense capabilities. The problem is that if you look at these new threats, non-military threats like cyber, they cannot really be targeted by traditional defense or deterrence means, because defense or deterrence doesn't really quite work with cyber attacks or terrorist threats. How can you deter terrorists per se? So what we can do about it? We could work on prevention, we could work on resilience, and we could work on crisis management. We could make sure that, for example, terrorist threats are prevented early on, let's say, financing phase, that our networks can withstand cyber attacks. And when, not if, crises occur, because they will occur eventually, we can effectively manage them. So what can NATO offer? I'll just mention several of instruments that we can use. Nicola already talked about the political dialogue, where we get together with our Middle Eastern and North African friends and we discuss our priorities. We also have training and education, and we have lots of experience by NATO Defense College, NATO School, in Oberammergau, and we have training courses for military officers, for government professionals on cyber defense, on crisis management, strategic communications. This year, for the first time ever, we established energy security strategic awareness course. And this is all for free. You can just, sign up, you can get financing, you can participate in these courses and get the right, experience. We also work on enhancing strategic awareness, because we really lack this strategic awareness sometimes at NATO through information exchanges, let's say on terrorist financing, on early warning, and NATO has a really good platform to do so. We can work more on exercises. We could do more because NATO really has good systems how to conduct these exercises, how to plan them. For example, last year we did a tabletop exercise with some Gulf countries, including Qatar and the United Arab Emirates, on potential attacks, cyber attacks or terrorist attacks on critical energy infrastructure. But also we talked about information warfare, because you sometimes do not even need to physically attack the infrastructure. You can spread panic and disrupt shipping, for example. And the last thing I want to mention is more like commercial, because this program, Science for Peace and Security program, is actually in my division, Emerging Security Challenges division. We have an elaborate program on science cooperation, which supports countries from Middle East, North Africa, and open to these countries to work on technologies, work on innovative solutions. I'll just mention several examples. With Egypt, we have a large-scale demining project. Israel is our partner, Science for Peace and Security, on counterterrorism and border port security. We have elaborate projects with Jordan on, for example, countering cyber attacks, which mostly come from outside the country. In Mauritania, we set up a National Center for Crisis Monitoring, Alerts and Management, which was also fully, funded by Science for Peace and Security project. And we work on cyber and defense against chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear agents with Morocco. And we have programs in Tunisia, for example, on decontaminating chemical warfare agents. So if you have time, please check on NATO's website, NATO Science for Peace and Security. These all projects are managed by NATO, and it's a really good practical cooperation tool. So to conclude, ladies and gentlemen, we have lots of challenges in the southern neighborhood of NATO, and throughout the day you heard a lot about them. Many of them are of non-military nature, with potential military or security implications. But we sometimes forget that we already have a lot of tools to address these challenges. Defense and deterrence are, of course, in the focus of the alliance right now. This is the core of NATO business, Article 5. But they also do not provide all the answers neither for NATO member countries nor partner countries. And prevention and resilience, I think, could complete this toolbox of our response to these new emerging challenges. And these challenges, you know, they affect allies and partners alike. So that's why we should logically address them together and become more resilient and stronger. Thank you.
Thank you very much.